I still remember the sound of her voice through the speaker. Bright, almost giddy, like she was planning a surprise party instead of my humiliation. I wasn't supposed to be home. That's what made it all so perfect, so unbearably perfect. I'd left work early because my head had been pounding since lunch, one of those headaches that sits right behind your eyes and makes the fluorescent lights feel like they're drilling into your skull. I thought I'd come home, take something, maybe lie down for an hour in the quiet of our house. But the house wasn't quiet. I stood in the hallway with my keys still in my hand, jacket half off, one arm caught in the sleeve, frozen. The living room was just around the corner, 15 feet away, maybe less. I could hear everything. Jennifer's voice, the slight distortion of speakerphone, and then, unmistakable, Rachel's voice cutting through. Just tell him you need space to think about your future together. I didn't move. Couldn't. My jacket slipped the rest of the way off my arm and landed on the floor with a soft whoomp that nobody heard. Men never appreciate what they have until it's threatened. This was Rachel. Rachel with the wine-stained teeth who laughed too loud at restaurants. Rachel who'd been married twice and was working on destroying her third. Then Sandra. My cousin Melissa did this with her boyfriend last year. He practically begged her to stay and bought her a new car the next week. I thought about breathing, about the mechanics of it. In, out. The air in the hallway felt thick, used up. There was a smell. Jennifer's vanilla candle from the living room, something she always lit when her friends came over. The scent made me nauseous now. But what if he just agrees? That was my wife. My wife's voice, uncertain but not horrified, not shut this down immediately, just uncertain, interested. What if he doesn't fight for me? The jacket was still on the floor. I was still standing there. My headache had disappeared completely, replaced by something else, a clarity so sharp it felt like I could hear the house settling, the refrigerator humming 3 rooms away, my own heartbeat in my ears. Trust me, honey, Amber now. Amber, who Jennifer had known since college. Amber, who'd I'd helped move last spring, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs in 90-degree heat. No man lets his wife walk away without a fight. He'll probably cry and promise to change everything about himself. They were laughing. Not all of them. Jennifer wasn't laughing, but Rachel was. That shrieking laugh she did, and I heard ice cubes clinking in a glass. Someone was making drinks. They were drinking while planning this. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't land all at once. It's not like in movies where violins swell and someone clutches their chest. It's quieter. It seeps in. It fills up the spaces in your chest where you thought you kept your marriage, your trust, your understanding of who your wife was. And it's cold. God, it's cold. I don't know, girls. Jennifer's voice had that tone she used when she was thinking about buying something expensive she didn't need, wavering but wanting permission. It feels wrong to manipulate him like that. Tell them no, I thought, standing there in my own hallway like an intruder. Tell them you're not doing this.
It's not manipulation. Rachel again, so confident, so sure. It's testing his commitment. You deserve to know where you stand in his priorities. I looked down at my hands. They were steady. That surprised me. I thought they'd be shaking, but they were perfectly still, almost relaxed at my sides. My wedding ring caught the light from the window. 14-karat gold, simple band, 5 years on my finger. It felt foreign now, like someone else's ring on someone else's hand. Look, if he really loves you, he'll fight for you. Sandra's voice had that reasonable advice columnist tone, like she was suggesting a new recipe. If he doesn't, then you'll know the truth about your marriage. Silence. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. When should I do it? My wife, asking when she should destroy me. "This weekend," Amber said. "Make it dramatic, but not too over the top. Tell him you've been thinking and you're not sure if you're happy anymore." I bent down slowly and picked up my jacket. The movement felt mechanical, like I was controlling my body from somewhere outside it. I folded the jacket over my arm, smoothed it, adjusted the collar. "Remember," Rachel said, and I could picture her leaning forward, eyes gleaming. "The key is to stay calm and serious. Don't give him any hints that it's a test. Let him sweat for a few days, then see how hard he works to win you back. And document everything." Sandra's voice was bright with excitement. "This is going to be such good drama." I walked backward down the hallway. 3 steps, 4, 5. My shoes were silent on the hard wood we'd refinished together 2 summers ago. Jennifer on her knees with the sander, sawdust in her hair, laughing about something I'd said. That woman felt like someone I'd invented, someone who'd never existed. The front door was still ajar from when I'd come in. I slipped through it, pulled it closed with a click so soft it might have been the house breathing. Stood on our porch, with the welcome mat her mother gave us, with the plants I watered every Saturday, and looked at my car in the driveway. 20 minutes. I give them 20 minutes. Long enough for her friends to leave, long enough for Jennifer to settle back into her normal routine, her normal face, the mask she'd apparently been preparing to wear while she tore our life apart for entertainment. I got in my car and drove. Not far, just around the block, then into the parking lot of the elementary school 2 streets over. Empty on a weekday afternoon. Quiet. I sat there with the engine running, air conditioning blowing cold air that I didn't feel, and thought about tests. Tests implied there was a correct answer, a way to pass, a way to prove yourself worthy of keeping what you thought was already yours. But here's what Jennifer and her friends didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, because they'd spent so long playing games they'd forgotten what real things looked like. You don't test something you're certain of. You don't test gravity by jumping off a building to see if it'll catch you. You don't test whether fire burns by sticking your hand in it.
You test when you already doubt, when you've already decided the answer might not be what you want it to be. She'd already failed me. The test was just her way of making me fail her back. I looked at my watch. 15 minutes gone. 5 more. I could see the school playground from here. Empty swings moving slightly in the breeze, the slide gleaming in the afternoon sun. We'd talked about kids once, early in our marriage. Jennifer wanted 2. I wanted 3. We'd compromised on 2, maybe 3. That conversation felt like something from another marriage, another life. The clarity was still there, sharp and cold and so obvious it was almost boring. I knew exactly what I was going to do, not because I was angry, though anger was there, banked hot somewhere beneath my ribs, but because I knew something her friends didn't. I knew myself. I don't beg, never have. It's not pride, not really. It's just that I learned early that begging changes you more than it changes the situation. My father begged my mother to stay when I was 7. I watched him cry, watched him promise impossible things, watched him shrink himself down to nothing, trying to be whatever she said she needed. She left anyway, 3 months later, took everything that mattered and left behind a man I barely recognized, someone who'd cut pieces off himself, and found out too late that he'd given away things he couldn't grow back. I'm not my father. 5 more minutes, then 4. Then I turned the car around and drove home, timing it perfectly. When I walked back through the front door, Jennifer was in the kitchen, alone. The smell of vanilla candle was fainter now, and I could hear her at the sink, the sound of running water, the clink of glasses. "Hey, honey, you're home early." She came around the corner as I was hanging up my jacket, the same jacket I'd dropped 20 minutes ago in another life. She kissed my cheek.
Her lips were warm, her smile was perfect, and behind her eyes I could see her friend's words settling in like stones, heavy and sharp and ready to be used. "Traffic was light today," I said. I watched her face, watched her decide whether to start the performance now or wait, watched her choose to wait. She was fidgeting with the kitchen towel, wringing it between her hands like she was rehearsing. "How was your day?" I asked. The girls came by for a bit. We just caught up." Caught up, like they'd been discussing book club plans or vacation plans, not the systematic destruction of their friend's marriage for sport. We moved through the evening. Dinner, chicken and rice, a recipe we'd made so many times I could do it in my sleep. She was quiet, picking at her food. I ate normally, made normal conversation about work, about the neighbor's new dog, about whether we should repaint the bathroom. Normal. All of it normal, and all of it a lie. That night she was restless beside me in bed. I could feel her tension through the mattress, could hear her breathing change, could sense her staring at the ceiling in the dark. She was thinking about this weekend, about her lines, about whether she could really go through with it. I stared at the ceiling too, my face calm, my breathing even. She'd go through with it. I knew she would. The seed was planted. Her friends wouldn't let her back out now. They'd call, text, push, remind her she deserved to know, deserved to test, deserved to blow up her life to see what fell back into place. Saturday was coming, and I was ready. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of bright, clear sky that makes you think the world is simple, clean. I was in the garage by 8:15, organizing tools I'd organized a month before, just giving myself something to do with my hands while I waited. She appeared in the doorway at 9:15. I'd been expecting 9, but she'd taken extra time, probably standing in the bathroom mirror practicing her expression, getting her face right.
"Marcus, we need to talk." I looked up from the workbench, let 3 full seconds pass. "Sure, what's on your mind?" She took a breath, staged. I could see it, the way you breathe before jumping into cold water. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us. About our marriage. And I'm not sure I'm happy anymore." The words hung there between us, in the garage that still smelled like sawdust and motor oil. The same garage where I taught her how to change a tire, where we'd assembled furniture together at midnight, both of us exhausted and laughing. "Okay," I said. Simple. Neutral. She blinked. The script was already breaking. "What specifically has you feeling unhappy?" The question landed wrong. She'd expected panic, denial, maybe anger. She got curiosity. Clinical, calm curiosity. "It's just, I feel like we've fallen into this routine, and I don't know if this is what I want for the rest of my life." Routine. The word was one of Rachel's. I recognized it from the phone call, though she'd tried to make it sound like her own. "I think I need some space to figure things out." I set down the wrench I was holding, wiped my hands on a rag. "What kind of space are we talking about here?" Maybe we should take a break. Spend some time apart so I can think clearly about what I really want." "How long of a break?" She wasn't ready for follow-up questions. I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month." "A month," I repeated, nodding like she'd just suggested we try a new restaurant. "That's reasonable. When do you want to start this break?" Her mouth opened slightly. You're okay with this?" I studied her face, saw confusion there, fear, the first crack in the mask. "You said you need space to think. If that's what you need, then that's what you need. I'm not going to force you to stay in a marriage that doesn't make you happy." The color drained from her face. This wasn't the script. This wasn't anywhere near the script. "But don't you want to talk about this? Try to work things out?" "What's to work out? You just told me you're unhappy and need space. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for." I could see it happening in real time, the test collapsing under its own weight. She was supposed to threaten to leave. I was supposed to fall apart. She was supposed to see how much I loved her by how desperately I clung.
Instead, I was handing her the door. So you're just giving up on us? I'm respecting your decision. You're an adult who knows what she wants. If you want space, you've got it. I walked past her toward the house, my shoulder nearly brushing hers. I'll start moving my things to the guest room today, so you can have the master bedroom. We should probably figure out how to split the bills during this break period. Wait! Wait! She was following me now, her composure completely shattered. You're moving to the guest room right now? Well, you said you wanted space. I assumed that meant physical space, too. In the bedroom, I opened our dresser and began pulling out clothes, methodically, calmly, folding each item with the same care I'd fold anything else. She stood in the doorway, watching me like I was defusing a bomb. Don't you have any questions? Any feelings about this? Her voice was climbing, desperate. I paused, looked her directly. Of course I have feelings, but you've made it clear those feelings aren't enough to make you happy in this marriage, so what's the point of discussing them? That's not what I said. You said you weren't sure if you wanted to spend the rest of your life with me. That's pretty definitive.
Her phone buzzed in her pocket. The sound made both of us freeze for a half-second. Rachel or Sandra or Amber checking in, asking how the test was going. The irony settled in the room like dust. "I'm going to call the guys and see if anyone wants to grab dinner tonight," I said, folding a shirt. "Since we're on a break, I figure we should both start adjusting to being single again." Single? The word came out strangled. That's what a break is, right? Taking time to experience life without each other? I could see her mind spinning, trying to figure out how to salvage this without admitting it was fake, without giving up the game. She'd committed to the lie. Now she had to live in it. "I think you're misunderstanding what I meant by a break." "Am I? Because it sounds like you want the freedom to decide whether you want to be married to me, which means we're essentially separated until you make that decision." She sat down heavily on the bed, watching me pack, watching our marriage fold up neat and small into a gym bag, while she tried to figure out where her script had gone. "Where are you going to dinner?" "Not sure yet. Probably that new steakhouse downtown, the one with the rooftop bar. I haven't been out with the guys in months. Should be fun." I could see her imagining it. Me at a bar, me laughing with friends, me acting like a man who'd just been set free instead of a man who'd just been devastated. All the wrong images flooding her mind. "You seem awfully calm about all this." I stopped packing, looked at her with something that might have been concern if you didn't look too closely. "Would you prefer that I was upset? Because I can be upset if that would make you feel better about your decision." She had no answer. I finished packing in silence. My phone buzzed, Nathan texting back about dinner, saying he'd love to catch up. Perfect. I typed back, "Pick me up at 7. I've got a lot to tell you." That night I stayed out until midnight, came home to find Jennifer waiting in the living room, something she never did. The house was dark except for one lamp. She was sitting on the couch in her pajamas, trying to look casual and failing completely. "How was your night?" "Great. Really great, actually." I loosened my tie, headed toward the stairs. I forgot how much fun it was to just be out without worrying about getting home to anyone. "What do you mean by that?" "Well, we're on a break, right? So I don't have to check in or worry about making someone else happy. It's liberating, honestly." I left her there in the dark living room and went upstairs to the guest room, my room now, and closed the door on her stunned face. The test was working perfectly, just not the way she'd planned. Monday morning, I was in the kitchen making coffee when she appeared in her rathrobe, dark circles under her eyes, like she'd spent the weekend not sleeping. She probably had. "I've been thinking about what I said on Saturday." I poured my coffee, didn't look up. "Oh, good. You're making progress. That's the whole point of taking a break." "Maybe I was too hasty. Maybe we should try counseling instead." "Counseling?" Now I looked at her. "But you said you weren't sure if you wanted to spend your life with me. What would we counsel about?" "I think I was just stressed.
Work has been overwhelming, and I might have taken it out on our marriage." I took a sip of coffee, let the silence stretch. Stress. That makes sense. Stress can definitely make you question fundamental things, like whether you love your husband. She flinched. "I never said I didn't love you." "No, but you did say you weren't happy and needed to figure out what you wanted. Those are pretty serious concerns that probably can't be fixed with a few counseling sessions." I grabbed my briefcase, checked my watch. Besides, now that I've had a couple days to think about it, maybe this break is exactly what we both needed.
What do you mean? Well, I've realized how much energy I was putting into trying to make someone else happy who apparently wasn't happy anyway. It's nice to just focus on myself for a change. I paused at the door, hand on the knob. I've even been thinking about taking that promotion in the Boston office, the one I'd turned down last year. Her face went white. Boston? That's 4 hours away. Wouldn't matter if we're separated, would it? I left her standing there in the kitchen, coffee growing cold in her hands, the weight of her own lies crushing her. The week unfolded like a slow-motion car crash that only she could see coming. Every day she'd try a new angle. Every day I'd agree with her completely, take her at her word, hand her exactly what she'd asked for. Wednesday, she tried the work stress angle. I think maybe the problem isn't our marriage. Maybe it's that we don't spend enough quality time together because of work and other obligations. That could be it, I agreed. Although you did say you weren't sure if you wanted to spend the rest of your life with me. That seems like more than a scheduling issue. Thursday, she escalated, knocked on the guest room door where I was reading. What if I said I made a mistake? What if I said I didn't want to break anymore? I marked my page, looked up at her, standing in my doorway, in our house. Then I'd say you need to be really sure about that decision. What do you mean? Well, you've already shown me that when life gets stressful, your instinct is to question our entire marriage. How do I know that won't happen again the next time you have a bad week at work or a fight with a friend? I watched her realize I was turning her fake concerns into real relationship problems, watched her understand that she'd created something she couldn't control. You're punishing me. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. I can't spend my life walking on eggshells, wondering when you'll decide to test me again. The word hung between us, test. I'd said it deliberately, watched her face change, but she still couldn't admit it, not without exposing everything. Friday morning, I heard her on the phone again, not intentionally this time. I was in the garage, she was in the kitchen, and the window was open. Her voice carried. "This isn't working at all. He's not fighting for me. He's acting like he's actually relieved to be separated." Rachel's voice, tinny through speakerphone. "Maybe you need to tell him you're thinking about divorce. That'll definitely get a reaction." I stood very still in the garage, holding a screwdriver, listening to them dig the hole deeper. Friday evening, she sat me down in the living room with an expression so serious it was almost theatrical. "I've been thinking during this break, and I'm wondering if maybe we should consider making the separation permanent." I nodded slowly, as if weighing this carefully. "Like a divorce?" "Maybe. I mean, if we're both happier apart." "You know what? You might be right." Her eyes went wide. "What?" "I've been thinking the same thing, actually. This week has shown me a lot about what I want in a partner, and maybe we're just not compatible long term." This was supposed to be her nuclear option, the thing that brought me crawling back. Instead, I was agreeing. You want a divorce?" "I want to be with someone who's sure they want to be with me, and you've made it pretty clear that's not you." "I never said that." "Jennifer," I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, looking at her directly. "You've spent a week telling me you're not sure about our marriage, that you need space, that you might want to separate permanently. What am I supposed to think?" She had no answer, just sat there, drowning in her own lies, while I watched her realize exactly what she'd done. The test was backfiring, and I hadn't even started yet. Saturday morning arrived for the second time, 7 days after Jennifer's performance began. 7 days of watching her squirm,
7 days of handing her exactly what she asked for and watching her choke on it. I was making coffee when she appeared. She looked like she hadn't slept, hair uncombed, eyes red. For a moment, just a brief, painful moment, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the laughter of her friends over speakerphone, planning my humiliation like it was a reality show. Okay, stop. I looked up from pouring coffee. Stop what? This act, this whole calm, accepting routine you've been doing all week. I'm not sure what you mean. She slammed her coffee mug down on the counter. I worried it would crack. You're supposed to fight for us. You're supposed to care that your wife is leaving you. I set down the coffee pot with deliberate care. But my wife isn't leaving me. My wife is making an informed decision about whether she wants to stay married to me. I respect that process. There is no process. She was almost shouting now. God, Marcus, you're being so frustrating. Help me understand something. I leaned against the counter, genuine curiosity in my voice. Are you angry because I'm not fighting for our marriage, or because I'm respecting your stated wishes? She opened her mouth, closed it. The trap was perfect, and she could see every edge of it. I'm angry because you don't seem to care. About what specifically? About losing me. The words hung in the kitchen. Morning light was coming through the window, hitting the counter where we'd had coffee together every morning for 5 years, where she'd told me she was pregnant with the baby we'd lost, where I'd proposed to her the second time, even though we were already married, because I wanted her to know I'd choose her again. Here's what I care about, I said, my voice quiet but every word clear. I care about being with someone who wants to be with me. I care about having a partner who doesn't need to threaten our marriage to feel valued. And I care about not wasting my time on someone who isn't sure they love me. I never said I didn't love you. No, but you did say you weren't sure if you wanted to spend your life with me. And honestly, after this week, I'm starting to understand why. Her face went pale. What does that mean? I straightened up, moved around the counter until I was facing her directly, close enough to see her pupils dilate with panic, close enough to see the exact moment she realized she'd lost control. It means I've learned something important about you. When things get difficult, your instinct isn't to work together or communicate. Your instinct is to threaten the foundation of our relationship. That tells me something about your character. That's not fair, isn't it? You literally told me you wanted to separate so you could decide if you wanted to be married to me. That's not a communication strategy. That's emotional manipulation. The word landed exactly where I aimed it. Manipulation. Her eyes widened. I wasn't manipulating you. Really? Because from where I sit, it looks like you created a crisis to get attention and test my devotion. That's pretty much the textbook definition of manipulation. She was backing up now, literally backing away from me, from the word, from what she'd done. You're twisting everything around. Am I? Let me ask you something direct. I stepped closer. Do you actually want a divorce? No. Do you actually want to separate? No. Were you actually unhappy in our marriage? She hesitated, just for a second, but that second told me everything. Things weren't perfect. But were you genuinely considering leaving me last Saturday morning? Another hesitation. I was confused. Confused about what exactly? About whether you... She stopped, tried again. About whether you really appreciated me. So you decided to threaten our marriage to find out. I didn't threaten anything. I just said I needed space to think. About whether you wanted to spend your life with me. Most people would call that a threat.
She was trapped in her own logic, every answer making it worse. Her phone buzzed on the counter between us. Without thinking, she glanced at it. I saw her face change, saw recognition, guilt, fear all flash across her features in rapid succession. "Your friends checking in on how the test is going?" I asked quietly. She went completely white, frozen. The kitchen was silent except for the coffee maker, which
which chose that moment to beep, done brewing. The sound was absurdly normal. "What?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "The test, the one where you fake a breakup to see how much I'll fight for you. How's it working out?" Her mouth opened, no sound came out. She looked like someone who just stepped on ice and felt it crack beneath their feet. That moment of perfect understanding before the fall. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because I heard every word of your phone conversation last Thursday, the one where Rachel, Sandra, and Amber convinced you to test my commitment by threatening to leave me." She staggered backward, actually staggered, grabbing the counter for support. You heard?" "I heard everything. The fake drama, the coaching on what to say, Sandra's cousin Melissa and her car, Amber's advice to let me sweat, the part where they told you to document it for entertainment, all of it." Tears started forming in her eyes, but I'd been holding this in for a week. 7 days of watching her lie to my face, 7 days of playing along with her friend's stupid game. The dam broke. "So let me ask you again, Jennifer. Were you genuinely unhappy in our marriage, or were you running a psychological experiment on your husband for your friend's amusement?" "It wasn't like that." She was crying openly now, mascara running down her cheeks. "What was it like then? Explain it to me." They said it would help me understand how you really felt about me." I let out a laugh. It sounded bitter even to me. "And how do I really feel about you, according to your week-long investigation?" "I don't know anymore." She could barely get the words out through her tears. "You want to know how I feel? I feel like I've been married to someone who would rather manipulate me than talk to me. I feel like my wife values her friends' opinions more than our relationship, and I feel like I've spent a week being tested like a lab rat by someone who promised to love and respect me." "I'm sorry." She choked out the words. "I'm so sorry. I know it was wrong." "Do you? Because you spent a week doubling down on the lie instead of coming clean. When your test didn't work the way you expected, you tried to escalate it by threatening divorce. You were willing to blow up our marriage for a game." "I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to tell you the truth." "You could have told the truth at any point. Saturday morning when I started packing, Sunday when I went out with the guys, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any of those days, Jennifer. But you kept digging the hole deeper." She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 5 years of marriage don't disappear just because you're angry. But the larger part, the part that had been coldly, methodically planning this moment for 7 days, kept me exactly where I was. "Here's what's going to happen now." My voice was firm, final. "You're going to call Rachel, Sandra, and Amber, and you're going to explain to them exactly how their brilliant test worked out. You're going to explain how their manipulation nearly destroyed your marriage, and then you're going to decide whether you want to be married to me or married to their approval." "I choose you," she said immediately, desperately. "I choose our marriage." "That's easy to say now, but you chose their game over our relationship once already. Why should I believe this time is different?" She had no answer, just stood there crying in our kitchen, the morning light making everything look harsh and overexposed. Outside, I could hear a neighbor starting their lawnmower, someone's normal Saturday, not ours, never ours again, not like before. "I don't know if I can forgive this," I said quietly. "I honestly don't know." And for the first time in 7 days, I wasn't performing. I wasn't playing a part or executing a plan. I was just telling her the truth. The consequences had to be public.
That evening, we were supposed to go to Sandra's dinner party. Every month, one of Jennifer's friends hosted. Wine, expensive cheese, the kind of party where people stand around talking too loud about nothing important. I'd made excuses to skip the last 3. Under normal circumstances, I'd have made another. But these weren't normal circumstances. "We should probably skip tonight," Jennifer said as she was getting ready, hands shaking as she tried to apply makeup. She'd been crying on and off all day. "After everything that's happened." "Actually," I said from the doorway, "I think we should go."
She turned, mascara wand frozen halfway to her eye. "What?" "I have some things I'd like to discuss with your friends. Don't you think they deserve an update on how their experiment turned out?" Her face went pale. "Marcus, please, don't." "Don't what? Don't tell the truth? I thought we were done with lies." The party was already crowded when we arrived. I could see them through Sandra's front window. Rachel and David, Sandra and Ryan, Amber and Kevin, plus half a dozen other couples milling around with wine glasses, laughing about something. The house glowed warm and inviting. We stood on the porch for a moment, Jennifer's hand trembling in mine. "Please," she whispered, "please don't do this." I rang the doorbell. Sandra opened the door, smile already in place. "Oh my God, you guys came! I didn't think—" She stopped, reading something in my expression. "Come in. There's wine in the kitchen." We walked in. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, that radar people develop for drama. They could sense something was wrong. Good. Let them sense it. I walked directly to where Rachel, Sandra, and Amber were standing by the fireplace, drinks in hand, mid-conversation. Jennifer tried to pull me toward the kitchen, but I kept going. "Ladies," I said, loudly enough for nearby conversations to pause, "I wanted to thank you for your excellent marriage counseling last week." The room didn't go silent all at once. It was gradual, conversations dying in waves as people tuned in. Rachel's smile was uncertain. "What marriage counseling?" "The phone consultation where you convinced my wife to fake a breakup with me to test my devotion. Brilliant strategy, really." Now the room went silent. Sandra's husband, Ryan, lowered his beer. "What's he talking about?" "I'm not sure what you mean," Sandra said, but her voice was shaking. "Really? Because I heard every word of your coaching session. The part about making her threaten to leave me, the suggestion to document it for drama, even the backup plan to escalate to divorce threats if I didn't react the way you wanted." Every eye in the room was on us now. Someone had turned off the music. Jennifer was trying to disappear into the floor. "The best part," I continued, my voice carrying, "was when she actually followed through with your advice and I called her bluff. You should have seen how panicked she got when I started agreeing with her about the separation." David set down his drink. "You guys told Jennifer to fake a breakup?" "It wasn't fake," Rachel protested weakly. "We just thought she should test his commitment." "Test my commitment by lying to me and manipulating me? That's your idea of healthy relationship advice?" "Every relationship needs testing," Amber said defensively, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Does yours?" I turned to Kevin. "Did your wife test your commitment by threatening to leave you for entertainment?" Kevin was staring at Amber with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Did you?" The room was completely silent now. Phones were coming out. I could see them at the edges of my vision, people texting, probably recording. "Here's what I learned about tests," I announced to the room. "When someone tests you, they're telling you they don't trust you. When someone manipulates you, they're telling you they don't respect you. And when someone lies to you for a week straight, they're telling you exactly who they are."
"That's not fair," Rachel said, her face flushing. "We were just trying to help. Help her feel more secure in her marriage by teaching her to be manipulative and dishonest? That's your version of security?" Ryan was looking at Sandra like he'd never seen her before. "Wait, so this whole separation thing was completely fabricated?" "Completely," I confirmed. "A week-long psychological experiment designed by these three relationship experts here." The room erupted in murmurs. I could hear snippets. "Can you believe that? That's so toxic. I would never do that to my husband." "You're making it sound worse than it was," Sandra protested, her voice rising. "Am I? Because my wife spent a week lying to my face, threatening our marriage, and escalating to divorce talk, all because you three convinced her it would be fun to mess with her husband's emotions." "Maybe we should go," Jennifer whispered desperately, tugging at my sleeve.
Why? I asked, not quietly. We're just getting to the good part. Tell everyone how your test worked out, ladies. Did I beg and plead like you predicted? They said nothing, stared at the floor. No? Well, let me fill everyone in. When my wife told me she wanted to separate, I helped her pack. When she said she needed space, I gave her all the space she wanted. When she threatened divorce, I agreed it might be for the best. I could see people pulling away from Rachel, Sandra, and Amber, creating physical distance. Other women were whispering to each other, glancing at the three of them with disgust. Turns out when you call someone's bluff, they panic. Funny how that works. Rachel made one last desperate attempt. We were just trying to make sure she knew her worth. I looked directly at her. Her worth isn't determined by how desperately her husband reacts to manipulation. Her worth comes from being honest, trustworthy, and respectful in her relationships, 3 things your advice completely undermined. David stepped away from Rachel. I think we need to talk at home. Kevin nodded at Amber. Yeah, we definitely need to talk. The party was over. People were making excuses, grabbing coats. Rachel, Sandra, and Amber were being pointedly ignored by everyone else. I could see other women whispering to their husbands, probably wondering if their friends had suggested similar tests. We left before most others, Jennifer silent beside me in the car. The night air was cold. I could see our breath. Did you have to humiliate them like that? She asked, finally. I started the engine. The sudden silence was heavy. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. But we need to talk about what happens next. Yeah, we do. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast 7 days ago, before everything broke, before I knew. I gestured to the chair across from me, and she sat slowly, like she was afraid sudden movements would shatter something. Your friends won't be calling you anymore. After tonight, they'll probably blame you for making them look bad instead of taking responsibility for their toxic advice. She nodded miserably. I know. Good, because that tells you everything you need to know about the kind of people they are. I leaned forward, made sure she was looking at me, really looking. Here's where we stand. You made a choice to prioritize their entertainment over our marriage. You lied to me for a week straight. You escalated fake problems into real threats, and when I didn't react the way you expected, you doubled down instead of coming clean. Fresh tears started. I kept going.
So now you get to make another choice. The most important one of your life. What choice? Her voice was barely audible. You can choose to rebuild this marriage on honesty and respect, which means cutting those toxic influences out of your life completely. No more girls' nights with Rachel, Sandra, and Amber. No more phone calls asking for advice. No more letting them poison your head with their manipulation tactics. She was nodding before I finished. Yes, whatever it takes. Or, I continued, you can choose to keep those friendships and lose this marriage, because I will not be tested, manipulated, or disrespected again. Not by you, and certainly not by your friends. This is non-negotiable. I choose you, she said immediately. I choose our marriage. That's what you said yesterday. But choosing me means more than words. It means proving through your actions that you understand what you did wrong and why it can never happen again. How? She was leaning forward now, desperate. How do I prove that? I'd been thinking about this all week, planning it. First, you're going to call each of those friends tomorrow and tell them you won't be continuing those friendships. You're going to explain that their advice nearly destroyed your marriage and that you take full responsibility for following it. Her eyes widened. All 3 of them? All 3, in front of me, so I know you actually did it. She swallowed hard. Okay. Second, we're going to marriage counseling. Real counseling, not the amateur psychology your friends were peddling, because you need to understand why you thought manipulation was acceptable in the first place. Yes, absolutely, whatever it takes. Third,
You're going to rebuild my trust through your actions, not your promises. That means complete transparency about where you go, who you talk to, and what advice you receive about our relationship. For how long? I looked at her steadily. For as long as it takes for me to believe you've learned from this mistake. Could be months, could be years. That's up to you. She was quiet for a long moment, processing. And if I do all of that, you'll forgive me? Forgiveness isn't something you earn by completing a checklist. It's something that happens when I see real change in your behavior and attitude, when I can trust that you won't pull something like this again. I stood up, but paused. But I will say this, the fact that you're willing to cut ties with those friends tells me you might actually understand how serious this is. I do understand. She was looking up at me, mascara streaked, desperate. I really do, Marcus. I was so stupid. I can't believe I let them convince me to do this. We'll see, because understanding it intellectually is different from changing your behavior permanently. That night, we slept in separate rooms again. Not because I was still playing games, but because I needed space to think, to feel. I'd been running on cold strategy for a week, and now that it was over, now that she knew I knew, the anger and hurt were flooding in. I lay in the guest bed, my bed now, and stared at the ceiling, thought about trust and how easy it is to break, how hard it is to rebuild, whether it was even worth trying. But I'd married Jennifer for a reason. Before Rachel, Sandra, and Amber got their hooks in her, she'd been different. Kind, honest, the woman who'd held my hand when my father died, who'd laughed at my terrible jokes, who'd looked at me on our wedding day like I was the only person in the world. That woman was still in there somewhere. The question was whether I could forgive her enough to find out. The next morning, she made the calls. I sat across from her at the kitchen table, coffee going cold, listening to her end friendships that had lasted years. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Rachel, I can't be friends with you anymore. Your advice to test Marcus nearly destroyed my marriage. I take responsibility for listening to you, but I need you to know that what you suggested was toxic and wrong. Rachel's voice came through tinny and defensive, making excuses. She cut her off. No, I'm not interested in justifications. I'm done. She hung up, stared at the phone, then dialed Sandra.
Sandra, I've been thinking about what happened at your party last night. The call lasted 3 minutes. Sandra tried to deflect, to minimize, to make it seem like everyone was overreacting. Jennifer held firm. When Sandra hung up on her, Jennifer just sat there for a moment, breathing hard. One more, I said quietly. Amber's call was the shortest. Jennifer barely got the words out before Amber was screaming at her through the phone, calling her ungrateful, accusing her of trying to destroy everyone else's relationships to make herself feel better. Jennifer listened for maybe 30 seconds before saying, "Goodbye, Amber," and ending the call. She set the phone down carefully on the table, looked at me. "It's done. How do you feel?" Like I just cut out part of myself. She was crying again, but quietly. But also lighter. Does that make sense? It did, more than she knew. That afternoon, she found a marriage counselor, Dr. Patricia Montgomery, who had availability starting next week. She showed me the confirmation email, the calendar invite, everything transparent like I'd asked. That night, she deleted Rachel's, Sandra's, and Amber's numbers from her phone without me asking, showed me the deleted contact screen, blocked them on social media, cut them out completely. It was more than I'd expected and less than I needed. Because actions are easy when you're scared of losing something. The real test, and God, I hated that word now, test, would come in the weeks and months ahead, when the fear faded and old habits tried to creep back. 2 weeks later, the first challenge came. Jennifer showed me a text from Hannah, a mutual friend who'd been at the dinner party. Hannah says Amber wants to apologize and explain herself. What do you think I should do? I looked at the phone, then at Jennifer. What do you think you should do? She bit her lip, thinking carefully. I think I think someone who tries to save face instead of taking real responsibility for their actions hasn't learned anything from what happened. Amber isn't sorry she gave me bad advice. She's sorry she got exposed for it. I smiled. Actually smiled, for the first time in 2 weeks. That's exactly right. She blocked Amber's number through Hannah, sent a polite but firm message declining the apology, and that was that. Progress. Small, but real. The counseling session started. Dr. Montgomery was in her 50s, calm and professional, with an office that smelled like lavender and had too many inspirational posters on the walls. I wasn't sure what I expected from therapy, but it wasn't this. "Jennifer," Dr. Montgomery said in our 3rd session, "why do you think you were vulnerable to your friend's advice?" Jennifer was quiet for a long time. I could see her thinking, really thinking. I think I was comparing our relationship to other people's. Rachel and Sandra were always posting about their husbands buying them things, taking them places, grand gestures, and Marcus isn't like that. He's quieter, more steady. I started thinking maybe that meant he didn't love me as much. "And you tested him." "I let them convince me to test him." She glanced at me. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Dr. Montgomery turned to me. "Marcus, how did that make you feel?" "Like I've been married to someone who would rather believe her friends than believe me when I tell her I love her. Like 5 years of showing up every day meant nothing compared to Rachel's Instagram stories." Jennifer was crying again. Dr. Montgomery handed her tissues. "Real love doesn't look like social media, Jennifer. Real love is showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when there's no audience to applaud." The session went on. We talked about communication, about insecurity, about the difference between testing someone and trusting them. "Trust is a leap of faith," Dr. Montgomery said. "Testing is trying to build a safety net. But the net doesn't work if the other person knows you're testing them. All you've done is shown them you don't trust them to catch you." Jennifer looked at me. "I'm sorry I didn't just tell you I was feeling insecure, that I needed reassurance. I'm sorry I made it into this game. I'm sorry I didn't notice you were feeling that way," I said, and meant it. I thought we were fine. I wasn't paying attention. Progress, slow and painful, but real. 6 months passed.
We had weekly check-ins now, sitting at the kitchen table every Sunday morning with coffee. Anything bothering either of us, we talked about it, no matter how small. No letting things fester until they grew teeth. Jennifer made new friends, real ones. Women from a book club she joined, from a volunteer organization at the community center. Women who talked about their marriages honestly, struggles and all, instead of posting highlight reels for everyone to envy. I made more effort to show appreciation, not grand gestures, just noticing, thanking her for the small things, telling her when something she did made me happy. The quiet maintenance work of marriage that I'd let slip into assumption. We were healing, or at least we were learning how. One evening, about 7 months after everything broke, we were having dinner when Jennifer said, "I ran into Ryan at the grocery store today, Sandra's husband." I looked up from my plate. "Oh?" "They're separated. He said after what came out at the dinner party, he started paying more attention to Sandra's behavior. Turns out she had been testing him, too, in smaller ways. He couldn't trust her anymore." I felt sad hearing that, not victorious. Just sad that Sandra had destroyed her own marriage with her toxic mindset, the same way she'd almost destroyed ours. "Rachel and David are in counseling," Jennifer continued quietly, "and Amber and Kevin are actually doing okay. Kevin put his foot down about her interfering in other people's relationships, and she's been working on herself. Good for them. I've been thinking a lot about what I did, about how close I came to losing everything because I listened to people who had no business giving relationship advice. We both made mistakes," I said. "The important thing is what we learned." She reached across the table, took my hand. "I learned that I'm married to someone who knows his worth, someone who won't tolerate being disrespected or manipulated, and honestly, that makes me respect you even more." I squeezed her hand. "And I learned that you're capable of real change when you commit to it. That matters more than the mistake." We kept going to Dr. Montgomery, even after things felt stable. She said the couples who succeed are the ones who keep working on their relationship even when things are good, so we kept working. 2 years later, we renewed our vows. Small ceremony, just family and Jennifer's new friends, the real ones who gave actual support instead of toxic tests. We stood in the same place we'd gotten married the first time, but everything was different. "I promise to always be honest with you," I said, looking at her, meaning every word, "to never test your love, and to choose our partnership over anyone else's opinions." "I promise to communicate openly," she said, tears streaming down her face, "to value your trust above everything, and to never let anyone convince me to betray what we have." They weren't just pretty words, they were promises, forged in fire, tested, God, that word again, but tested honestly this time, by real crisis, real consequences, real work. We kissed, people clapped, and I felt for the first time in 2 years like we were actually going to make it. Sometimes people ask us what saved our marriage, how we got through it. The truth is simple, even if it's not easy. We almost lost everything by playing games, and we saved it by refusing to play them anymore. Jennifer learned that real security in a relationship comes from honest communication, not manipulation tactics. That comparing your private reality to everyone else's public performance is a recipe for misery. That the quiet, steady love that shows up every day is worth more than all the Instagram-perfect grand gestures in the world. And I learned that sometimes the best way to fight for your marriage is to refuse to fight in your marriage, to hold boundaries, to know your worth, to call bluffs instead of begging. We learned that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but only if both people commit to the hard, unsexy work of showing up honestly, day after day, week after week. No shortcuts, no tests. Just two people who chose each other, chose to stay, chose to rebuild. The test was over. The marriage began.